I'm good with it.
Alright, check.
I
Alright, so we're back on another episode of the Simple Podcast.
thought it's called the archives.
Shit.
It's fine.
Well, we're back to
A
another
podcast.
podcast, Simple Podcast, Archives, whatever fuck. And we're gonna start.
Okay, so just a quick introduction. This podcast is going to cover a list of topics that we consider the most vital for anyone to know. So like the subjects we think that should be covered in school, in all schools, regardless of like in college, regardless of major, and the foundational knowledge base. So these are the topics, and we're going to pick one and see where it goes.
Alright, so I think we should start out with financial literacy. We haven't talked about that one. And it's a very valuable topic. Why don't you start out for
Yeah.
a change?
So I mean, it's a broad topic.
It is.
There's a lot of moving parts. I mean, one issue that I have personally come to learn a lot about recently, and I feel it's very, very not misunderstood. I don't think it's understood at all, but very mistreated, and that's debt. The concept of debt and how debt plays a role in our economy, and how because of the idea, the concept of debt since it's been introduced into society, how society has been like morphed by that debt. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like the existence of debt has been the cause of a great many effects in the way society has taken shape today. And one example, obviously, is college. That I'm sure you assumed I was good, but that's one. Just honestly, just one example. Like even literally any like more any loans, like that's essentially debt. Like home loans, 2008. Then credit card. That's literally the definition of the United States. Cheap credit and the consumer culture. That's literally the definition of the first world now,
But
and that's all driven by debt.
I mean, I agree with you that has some deteriorating effects on society. It can. But I also think that is necessary.
I don't think it's necessary, but I think it can be incredibly valuable. It's not necessary.
I don't mean necessary as in everybody should be in debt, but it's necessary for there to be a concept of debt. You know what I mean? Like for that to be available, because that allows for a lot of great things to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean there's a lot of value to it?
Exactly.
It's not been like I thought what you meant is like you need it.
No.
And if you don't have it,
No.
you're not going to be able to function.
I don't think everybody should be in debt. As a matter of fact, I think I'm not going to say the majority, but a big percentage of people who are in debt should not have been taking those loans or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think that the idea of debt has inherent value to itself.
Yeah, like anyone, honestly, debt can be used positively by anyone. But as long as you control the debt and the debt doesn't control you.
Exactly.
And so if you qualify past that requirement, then anyone can use. Then you can use that. Anyone can, but most people don't. That's
the thing. I mean, that can also be valuable for an individual because if it's in your price range and it's if you model your earnings and you have a stable job and you want to, for example, take out a mortgage or something of that sort, it can be very valuable because it lets people ascend before they have accrued the means, the currency to do so. And I think even more important, it's for business. Which 100%. Doesn't really apply in this in many of the topics that we talk about in terms of debt, like the education bubble and so forth. But I mean, just putting it out there for general knowledge, most businesses operate on debt.
Oh yeah, debt can be a very, very powerful force for progress.
Yeah. Most businesses, not most, but a big amount of businesses, they grow because of that.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I don't know, for example, a contracting company, if they get a big contract assigned to them, and maybe they can't afford it. That is what will allow them to go to that next step and play with those bigger players. And eventually, if they do everything right and they don't, take chunks of it for
Yeah.
themselves, they'll eventually be in that level.
They're
So
disciplined.
yeah, exactly. So it's like a fake it till you make it type of thing in the broadest of terms.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was actually watching a video online, and it was a discussion between Trump and what's his name, the guy who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. What's his name? Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki, or something like that.
Okay.
He's an Asian American, and he wrote one of like the most popular personal finance book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And basically, those two guys, Trump and him, were talking exactly on this issue about on debt. And before that, all I'd heard about was, debt is bad, debt creeps up on you, debt is like the reason why most people are trapped in, the cycle, not of poverty, but like their financial circumstance, they're trapped in it, and which is all true. But I never thought of, the other side of it. And like Trump, especially, he's a savvy businessman, and most
Yes.
of his wealth, or like not most of it, but a good portion of it came into existence because debt financing, and he had an option to to finance things through debt, which eventually worked out for him.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a thing. Something that I feel like we should talk about is the fact that a lot of people say that debt creeps up on you and
It does.
eats up your life, and it does. But if that ends up creeping up on you, then you shouldn't. You should
Yeah.
have not probably taken that debt and that loan in the first place, because that's a thing. People, especially, and I mean this in a broad terms. I don't. This is not generalization, but in general, people who don't have as many resources or are not as high on the socioeconomic plane, they see the concept of debt, and they, even though they don't actively say this, in the back of their mind they're thinking free money and let future me
100%.
take care of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then once future me becomes present me, and the debt creeps up on you and it's eating you away and you're thinking about faking your own death, then you start blaming the banks, you start
Yeah,
blaming
and
society.
you become the victim.
Yeah, exactly, because people love being victimized. And the
Oh, yeah.
matter of fact is that debt is there and it's free for anybody to take it, because it's stupid easy, especially in America, to go in debt and take loans. It's almost too easy.
Yeah, personally, I think it's too easy.
But I mean, there's positives and negatives to it.
Yeah.
And it will be not only, but on its majority, irresponsible people who will go ahead and misuse the concept of debt and misuse the concept of loans, and then blame all their problems on society and on wealthier people. It's sad to say, but it's wealthier people, because they'll blame the whoever's the CEO of the bank who
Yeah.
gave them the loan.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, like there are people who just happen to be dealt very bad cards,
Oh no, that is very true.
and those guys, I mean, I'm all for, if they have to say what they have to do, what they have to I don't know, get justice, for lack of a better word. Like, sure, there are always these circumstances which we have to accommodate, but I obviously what you're talking about is not those people.
No, yeah, I 100% agree, because there are many factors to determine success of any single individual, and whether we like it or not, luck is one of them, and luck
Oh,
is
yeah.
present everywhere. And luck is just the way we describe randomness, and randomness is there in every single model that you can think of that can be applied in our physical plane. So for those people, yeah, it's sad and they should be heard. But for the majority of people that are complaining about that, they probably brought it upon themselves.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you an example, and we've talked about this before. When people are complaining about their student debt,
Yeah.
how they 10 years after they graduated, they're still paying for their debt.
Yeah.
The problem is that we've come to accept college as such an expensive commodity, which I think is a problem as a society, and the damage is done, especially here in America, because I mean, we see from your country and my country, education is not nearly as expensive, and I would say it's as good of a quality if you go to a good school. There's brilliant
Yeah.
people coming
I-
out of Indian universities and
Oh,
Colombian
yeah. Dude,
universities.
there are top, like there are a growing number of top level executives of Indian descent
Exactly.
in like major internet companies. It's crazy, honestly.
Yeah, dude, it's that value that American university once had is quickly dissipating, and now they just sell you and they sold us. And not to say I'm ungrateful for it because I did have some good experiences. And all in all, I'm happy I came here.
Yeah, it's because you're not in debt.
No, 100%. I'm just saying that, but the concept that they sell you, not
Dude,
the
the
debt itself.
concept is amazing.
Yeah, and
If you can provide the same product at without having to making incurring debt a staple, a requirement, dude, it's a great product. Dude. It's a great it creates tremendous value, and I'm all for it.
oh, 100%. But the thing is, one way or the other, American college has become something that we accept paying. What is it? Like around 400K, 200K, and for your whole career.
Like into I don't know college costs
Yeah,
during
yeah.
the
And
4
no,
years.
your 4 years.
Yeah, dude,
It's
because
like
for
300, 400K, and
I'll-
that for people who graduate on time. But remember that thing we were talking about a few months ago, how the average person in America graduates in 6 years.
so I don't know if it's average,
I thought it was average.
but it's 60% less than sorry, more than 2/3. No, less than. Okay, it's 60%. Yeah, I remember now. It's 60% graduate in 6 years, and 40% of which graduate in 4 years. So that means 40% don't graduate at all,
Yeah,
and like the in 2000, one of the because this stat I just said today while doing research on the book.
yeah.
The in one of the early 2000 in the early 2000s, one of the years there was like a statistic research study done, and it said that the in a percentage, and in that year 70% of college graduates graduated with debt,
That
out of which
surprised me at all.
the average is 30K. That's a lot of money. Dude. That's
That's concerning.
Yeah, and like what a lack of financial know-how does is you see that everywhere, like all on social media. You see that people they say, okay, I've been paying my debt I've been making payments every day, like whenever the due date is for the past 10 years, but still my principal amount is the same, if not higher. And like that's a terrible circumstance, but that tells me that you don't understand what interest is, and that tells me you don't understand what compounding is. Because this I don't know for a fact, but I can make an assumption which I'm pretty sure is true, is that they put their payments on the minimum payment, okay, and once you put it at the minimum payment, your interest, it grows. So once your interest is added on top of the principal, and you don't even and your minimum payment doesn't cover the surplus of the interest, your total principal has grown, right? And then the next payment's interest is on that total sum, and then it just exponentially increases.
Yeah, it compounds.
Exactly, and that is why even if you make minimum payments, it's still going to grow.
No, 100%. The problem is, especially here in America, and specifically here in America, the act of taking on loans to go to college has become such a normal thing that people don't even understand what debt is before they partake in it.
Yeah, they don't.
And then
I mean, you can't blame them. I don't blame them.
I don't blame them either,
They're
because
18-year-old kids. I wouldn't know.
dude, when you go to college, you're what, 18 years old.
Yeah.
It's an institutional problem. It's a systematic problem at this point.
Oh yeah.
People just assume that, first of all, they assume that the price tag put on college is equal to its value, which is
Yeah.
100% not true. Second, they assume that they all have to go to college, which in the past was true, it's becoming less true every day. And third, they take on debt that they don't understand. When I was in high school, I was only starting to understand the concepts of debt, and I know, well, I don't know this for a fact, but I have it on good on good feeling, good sources that they don't teach any kind of financial literacy or any kind of financial knowledge in high school in America, at least not in the public system.
Like even if they do, it's very like,
Yeah, I doubt
it's very
that
rare.
people internalize this concept when they're teenagers.
Oh no, I don't think I would have been able to.
I remember just being 18, my mom and my dad trying to explain me all this, and I was just so confused.
Yeah,
And yeah, with time and age, you start to understand these concepts. But then by the time you understand them, if
It's
you
too
do
late.
try to understand them, you're already
yeah.
how much money in debt? You spend what, 200K, 300K in debt?
The minimum, like the average for in-state tuition is 20K a year.
That's
So-
for public schools, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like the minimum. I mean, I don't know if it's. I'm pretty sure public's gonna be cheaper than private for sure.
No, it is.
But the minimum for American citizens in-state per year.
Are you talking about California?
No, I mean on average,
On average,
in the US, it's 20K. Which what my point is that it's still a lot because what happens is 20K 1 year is 80K in 4 years, but the majority chances are you're gonna go at least a year additional, which will be 100K right there without living expenses and whatnot, and then slowly things
And
just
that's
rack
just
up.
tuition.
And
We're not talking about books and all that. That
yeah,
also
exactly.
racks up in the thousands.
Exactly. That's what those things I'm talking about. Like it racks up, and then it's so obfuscated, like the total cost of college, that you can't even accurately predict it before coming here.
Yeah.
So it makes the whole process of decision making that much harder. And I was going to say this before, but you can't unload student debt. You can't declare bankruptcy. You can declare bankruptcy in any kind of debt, any consumer debt, loans, home loans, credit card loans, car loans,
Just not student loans.
just not student loans. Student loans are literally with you for life.
It's a trap that's been set
Yeah.
to the younger generation from institutions, and it's become a systematic problem. And if people don't realize that this is a problem, which most people don't, then it's gonna get solved because information is literally at the tip of your fingers now. But it's gonna take much longer than it has to. Actually, I remember when we were still doing our simple school presentation last semester.
For what? For school?
Yeah, for school.
Yeah. The capstone.
Yeah, so we were talking about education in one other class of mine, a class that had nothing to do about education, but we were talking about it, and I basically outlined a few of the things that we're talking about now, and I had more than one person get furious
Yeah,
and
sure.
start fighting and bickering, and honestly, I don't blame them because when you spend so much money on something and then somebody step by step breaks down why you made a stupid decision
Yeah.
and why you're basically ruining your life.
It's hard.
That
yeah.
hits hard.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
But that's the
Me neither.
thing, people don't, there's no worse blind man than the one who doesn't want to see. That's a saying in Spanish translated to English. And I feel like
Say that again?
there's no worse kind of blind than the one who doesn't want to see. So,
Yeah, I like that. It's true.
and that's the thing, most people want to open their eyes to the truth. They'd rather live in a lie because institutions and things that seem safe and trustworthy tell you to do something, and you'd rather listen to that and stay in
And
ignorance.
all your authority figures, with all like, what happens is parents, when they grew up, college was the norm, right? And it worked out for them, and that's why they push their kids to you have to go to. Dude, this is facts. Like parents, they emotionally, if they have to emotionally blackmail their kids to go into college, even when they're not financing it.
Oh,
So then the kid is forced to take all these, and honestly, like if your parents are going to tell you something and they're really adamant on it, you're going to listen to them. Like they've
Oh,
given you,
especially if you're a teenager.
especially if you're teenagers. And then what happens is you take all the loans and you're stuck with it. So just and on top of that, all your friend circle are going to college. And then when you say, if you say, I'm not going to college,
Oh,
then
you're a bum. You're not a matic.
yeah, and that's one thing for sure. And then when they say, okay, what else will you do? You don't know what you're gonna do. Then you're like, oh shit, what do I do? Like then, oh, college. I guess I have to go. And it's a whole cycle, you know.
No, it is, and this is not to say that parents who push their kids to go to school are to blame, because
I mean,
The
they
sad-
mean well. I'm sure. They mean well.
the sad thing is it's their best intentions. They're
Yeah.
trying their best. The problem is that it's systematic at this point.
Yeah, it is
And
very.
just like many things that are slowly being uncovered as systematic problems,
It's a bubble, dude.
and yeah, we were talking about this.
Yeah.
It's a $1 trillion bubble.
Yeah. I don't, and it's not like the same as any other bubble, because a lot of like let's take the housing market for example. That was financed by private institutions. That was financed by the banks.
Right.
But this bubble is financed by the government, because all the majority of the loans, like maybe some ridiculous 90% of the loans, they're federal loans.
Yeah.
So
Does
How-
that have
how-
to do with FAFSA and all that?
I don't know. I'm not
Right.
sure of all that. I
Okay.
mean, maybe not.
Continue.
But the point is, when private institutions they finance these so what happens in a bubble, right, is there's a product, and the product service which has a value, and people start buying this product or service with the expectation that the value will go up. And once a lot of people start buying it with that expectation, it actually starts going up because more people want to buy it.
Right.
So demand increases, the value goes increases, and that just continues until it doesn't. And that's what happened. And that when people start buying it, and then it actually, when it looks like in the short term that it's actually going up, then the cheap credit comes in the picture. Then other people who can't afford to buy it will buy it because they have easy money, easy access to
Free
credit.
money.
They have essentially free money, and then their rationale is, I have free money, I have this product that's going to go up in value. Okay, I'll use the loan, buy it, it'll go up in value, I'll make money. That's the rationale. And then some people actually works for them
Yeah.
out of dumb luck, and then a lot of other people do it, and until the expectations stop, because then people wise up, consumer ignorance subsides, and then we say the bubble has popped. And then what happened to those is the government bailed the banks, right? And that's how the outcome wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, but the thing is, who's going to bail out
The government. Exactly. So it's a weird scenario, and that's why, like, most people are saying now is, when this bubble pops, what's going to happen is the mid to low tier colleges, they're going to get fucked, because what they're doing is they're financing all these infrastructure projects with debt, and already government subsidies to them, like for research and whatnot, that's already on the decline, because like there's so much other government expense like healthcare and shit that already government is slowing down government college subsidies. So automatically they've been switching their revenue model to putting the burden on the consumer, on the student, right? That's why tuition prices have been going up consistently. And what happens is, once this bubble, because right now in the student debt bubble, the product is college, the college degree, and the value and the expectation is that what I get, the degree is worth more than what I'm paying for. And that's how prices have been going up with the cheap credit, the loans, student loans, it's been going up. And once this expectation stops, college students are going to stop going to college, right? And then where does the money come from for the colleges? Because they have all these infrastructure projects that are financed by debt. Then on top of that, they have to maintain everything, because it's not a one-time cost. Like the gyms are like consistent costs.
No, there's several recurring costs.
Exactly.
In college.
So then once the expectation stops, then the consumer doesn't buy the product anymore, the college's predominant revenue stream has transitioned to tuition, but tuition is going to come now. So who's going to pay? No one. Then they're going to go bankrupt, and that's why this is the prediction. Most people, not most people, at least some people who I consider to be wise, are predicting, and it's the only time with that. Because right now, there's a college in Boston, Mount Ida College. It was like 100-year-old college, maybe older than that, and it just closed.
No,
It
So-
went it went it went
it went under.
it went under, yeah. And there are more and more of these colleges, and there was this Harvard professor. His name is Clayton Christensen.
Harvard.
Harvard University.
Okay.
And he was, I forget what his class was called, something about disruptive innovation. And he predicted, this was like years ago, he predicted that in the next 10 years, the bottom 25% of each tier of universities are going to go bankrupt. And I mean, the guy just died recently. I wanted to meet him, but yeah, dude, I
Maybe you'll meet him someday.
someday. But I believe in his predictions. I really do think that that's a very strong possibility because
I think you're right. I think even though there's going to be a lot of quote unquote experts that are going to go against this, those
Oh, there are.
experts are probably in some way or another getting financially and reputation wise benefited from the college institution being the lay of the land.
the incumbents 100%.
Exactly. And that bubble is going to burst. And I think it's going to burst sooner than most people expect it to. And I'm not talking about experts, I'm talking about the regular Joe here. And once that happens, there's going to be a big hole in the market for education. That's what we're hoping to fill up.
Yeah, like alternate means for higher education.
Yeah, because
Yeah, dude.
the reality is that you don't need all that infrastructure and all those bells and whistles to get an education. All you really need to learn, I would dare say anything, if not most things, apart from, I don't know, things like medicine, like practical.
I mean, for a job, you just need to learn the job. That's all.
Exactly, no.
If a job is what you need only, you just need to learn the skill that employers want.
No, yeah.
That's
But
all.
where I'm going with this is that apart from a few practical skills that you need to work with your hands, you can learn most things as long as you have a computer and an internet connection.
And the
all you
willingness to learn like that.
And the time.
Yeah, and the time.
And the
Yeah.
willingness to learn.
Yeah.
All the extra bells and whistles, all the infrastructure, the beautiful campuses, yeah, sure, that's great. But
It's not worth the price.
yeah, exactly. It's not worth going the rest of your life into debt.
That's the thing. It's hard to like conceptualize that when you're 18. Like I am 100% sure I would not have been able to.
Oh, it's funny that what we're asking of people is way too much for an 18-year-old. And this should
Yeah.
it has to it's going to be a generational change, I think, because now I think a lot more people our age are starting to realize that it's not worth it, and then as a result they're not going to pressure their kids to go to college when they have kids or when we have kids.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a generational change, like most things are, because trying to fix misconception within one single generation is very hard.
That is true. Dude, like, it comes back to your environment, right? When because this happened to me. This was my rationale for college, okay? I was in a school where all throughout, from as early as I can remember, let's say grade 4, like middle school, primary school,
Right.
all along I was told that the goal of school is to get into a good college, because a good college means a good job, and so that's naturally I was like, okay, I don't know, like I have no reason to refute that. Everyone's saying, my parents are saying that, school is telling me that, so okay, and then I moved on, progressed, got the best grades I could always, and then when it came time to actually start figuring out which college you want to apply and all, then all my friends, I'm assuming with the same mindset I had, start working towards their college application. In that kind of scenario, how I could not see myself doing anything else because everyone told me, everyone had, all authority figures had one message. All my friends were reacting to what that was said in the expected manner. So I also did that.
No, and it's just become, in our society, it's become the natural step after high school.
Dude, the,
Going to college.
that's interesting you said that because you know Peter Thiel, right? The billionaire.
Right.
He's like one of the early investors of Facebook. He's also a co-founder of PayPal. He calls it the default activity.
Yeah,
Exactly what you said. It like college become the default activity.
yeah, it's a natural next step. Once you
Yeah.
graduate high school, what do? You're gonna go to college.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's funny because, and we've seen this many times within our school. Some people are so, I mean, I'm not trying to generalize, but there are people who are so afraid of the real world and they've gotten so comfortable with the concept of, oh, I study, that they keep on. This is not even about that, it's just the general concept of college.
Yeah.
They keep on staying in colleges and they start playing into all this nonsense that we get fed into us, that some people can realize is nonsense and some people just simply don't. And then they become part of the nonsense. So they'll go on and do a master's on some nonsense. And then they'll do a PhD on some more even focused nonsense. And then they'll go back to where they got their bachelor's and teach.
I mean, like
And they just perpetuate
that's
the
a
cycle.
That's a career path. I don't think that perpetuates the cycle at all. Because like
See,
there are-
it perpetuates a cycle of definitely not everybody who spends their life teaching and learning is part of this group. But for example, remember that class we had? I don't want to say names, but
oh yeah, the business class, business strategic management.
the more people that
No, see that's
go into this because they're like, you can tell with our professor. He has no idea about the real business world. Everything he's learned from the textbook, and everything's made up. And most of those things, if not all of them, won't work in a real business setting.
Yeah, no, I see that. That's a different point.
That's what I'm talking about.
What you bring up is a different point, and that I agree with, because the issue is not that people choose to stay in academia.
No,
all
that's
their
not
life.
what I'm
That's
talking about.
fine.
They start going to nonsense.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
because the issue is, like you said, it's systemic, right? And when the rules, let's call it the rules of college, were introduced to the world,
Right.
in order to teach undergraduate, you had to have a PhD. That was a requirement, which makes no sense.
Absolutely.
Teaching, the ability to teach, is exclusive to what you know. The ability to teach, maybe not exclusive, but it is heavily not dependent on what you know. What you know helps a lot. In fact, if you want to teach well, you need to know, but that is one small piece of the entire puzzle. And the issue lies when, like I said, they made it to teach undergraduate. You had to have a PhD. That was a requirement. So then, in that model, if you go to naturally, if you go and say I want to get my PhD to teach, then there's an issue, because the skills, more often than not, this is a generalization, but more often than not, the skills that allow you to achieve PhD are the exact skills not needed in a good teacher. Because to attain a PhD, you need such a thorough understanding of dry material and a pure, you need to have an ability to just sit in one place and write a lot, and like it's a lot of mundane work. And it's obviously not mundane to the person who's doing it because he enjoys the subject.
No, 100%.
But when you're teaching
mundane
to
is relative.
Yeah, but when you're when you're teaching an undergraduate class, that to 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, you have been working and playing with this knowledge for what, like 6 years, 7 years, maybe 8 years. I don't know how long PhD is, a fuck ton of time.
I think it's probably closer to 7 years off, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So then your understanding of it is so radically different from you cannot because this you can't conceptualize what it is to not understand it anymore.
It's like conceptualizing what it must feel like for a baby to not know how to speak. It's kind of the same level.
There's a term for it. It's called the curse of knowledge, and you suffer from the curse of knowledge at that point. I'm not saying it's like if you have a PhD, you're automatically not a good teacher. It's not like that. It's just that
But
it tends to happen.
it's not that, but the fact that you have a PhD doesn't automatically enable you to be able to teach.
It
That's
doesn't.
what it is.
Another way put is having a PhD is not a good predictor of a good teacher. Not at all.
Oh no! Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that what I consider have been my best professors in college, none of them have had PhDs.
Yeah, I don't like.
I'm sure it might just be a
Yeah,
coincidence,
yeah.
but it just shows that it's possible for a professor to excel at his profession or his or her profession
Yeah.
without the need of a PhD. And
Yeah.
now that you talk about the curse of knowledge, that's actually very interesting. I didn't know that, and
Yeah.
that actually makes a lot of sense because it's us. We are 21-year-olds. We can't conceptualize what it's like to not know how to speak any language, just being a baby. And when you go into class with all the knowledge in the world on the topic, and students who tend to be younger than you, they are going to be younger than you, and they don't know anything about it, I can see how it's hard to level with them because you can remember a time when you didn't know about it, especially if you have a PhD, you've been studying this for years.
Yeah. Like you remind me of one section of the book I'm writing, and that's when I lay out the different criteria, like that I think at least, what defines what makes a teacher a good teacher, and that's one, sound knowledge, so which PhDs will automatically have. But like I said, that's one part of it. The other part of it is two, it's the ability to think in different perspectives, and what I mean by that, to be even more specific, is you need to think cross cultures, you need to think cross generations, and those are two very, very incredibly difficult things and important things. Like cross generation means it could span from 5 years, like 4 or 5 years, to even 10 years, 20 years. Because the longer you stay, the longer span of time you think cross generationally, right? And then cross culture. Cross culture is also a huge thing because, like, especially for the modern college, the modern professor, he's getting students from all around the world. It's not it's not just one culture, and I mean, like, everyone knows what you are is hugely an influence of what you've grown up around, your environment, right?
Of course.
So those are two things, and another thing is in a bit articulate speech. So once you have sound knowledge, once you have an ability to think cross generationally, cross perspectives, then you have to communicate that. So you have to articulate speech. That is incredibly important because if you have the first two and not this, it's useless.
And it's funny I mentioned that because having a PhD doesn't automatically make you have articulate speech the way you're talking.
Not at all.
Well, not at all. As a matter of fact,
they don't test that at all. That's not.
Yeah, exactly. It's not part of it.
No.
So
it's part of an acting career. That's probably what articulate speech is. More like,
yeah.
They're like rhetoric classes,
or
like the one that we took, rhetorical arts. That's literally what it is. Articulate speech.
Yeah, exactly. But it just goes deeper into assuming that a person can teach because they have a PhD is morbidly wrong.
And the last thing I forgot to mention is patience. You need to have patience. Without patience, the first three just crumble because the second you start, because I mean people pick up on cues, like that's a very inbuilt human skill, picking up on social cues for most people. And the second a teacher becomes impatient, you can tell from the tone of their voice,
100%.
from their facial expressions. As soon as that happens, it's hard to define the reaction of students, but in a broad sense, it's a detriment to learning. Learning does not happen.
Oh,
It becomes a very
once just
imbalanced social
from
environment.
my personal experience, once a professor loses their patience with you, and not in a explicit way, but you can tell that they're getting frustrated.
It's all implicit. Yeah.
Oh, you lose. First of all, you lose all confidence in what you thought you just learned, because the professor is basically implicitly telling you that you're not good enough, and you're making him lose his shit.
Yeah, it's like it's your fault. You're wasting.
Yeah, exactly. You are wasting his valuable
Yeah.
PhD time.
PhD time.
And second of all, what did I say? Yeah, it invalidates everything that you've learned, and it discourages you from learning the topic.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like you're getting,
especially if you didn't want to be learning
Yeah,
to
exactly.
begin with.
or if you're just mildly curious about it, and then you have a guy older than you that you consider a figure of authority shitting on you
Yeah.
for not knowing something that he's not teaching well, you're gonna hate the subject. And
Yeah.
we see that happening not just in college, in high school, everywhere,
Yeah.
middle school.
Dude, that's what happened to Gautam, by the way.
What happened?
That's the real because he went in as a marketing major, right?
Right.
And the classes are so shit over here. He doesn't want to do marketing anymore. And I feel for him.
That's
like,
sad.
like,
That's sad.
like that's just one example, not to put him on the spot, but like, you know what I mean? That's
No, but
it's case in point right
I'm
there.
sure it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, so
It's,
more people than it should.
It's discouraging because people start to think they're bad at whatever they think they like or whatever they like doing. It can be like that case. A lot of people feel an interest, for example, in middle school and high school towards math.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But then they get shit on by their teacher, professor, whatever. And it's not even because they are not good at math. They might be amazing at math given the proper aid. But more often than not, it's a teacher that sucks at teaching.
Yeah, it's the teacher, and it's also the whole underlying structure of learning. That
On top of that,
that all in all, when mixed together,
We talked about this last time, didn't we?
yeah, I mean maybe.
About the compartmentalized.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure if
one.
That's a word.
So I mean, I don't think I've mentioned it to you, but like we said, the compartment, the unitization, the subject, the creation of the subject, the breakdown, all that. There are other things as well, but all of them are, in my opinion, and people who I consider wise in the education space, their opinion, that all of that are second order consequences. No, sorry, not second order. They create second order consequences. They are first order consequences of the primary cause, which is the arbitrary imposition of time to learning. So
That's an interesting
So-
thought.
I mean, this, and like I didn't even think to question this until I started reading on my research books and stuff. Like this is such a fundamental aspect, like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. You know how everything is 1 year.
It's all measurable.
One
It's all
year.
broken down and measurable by time.
Yeah, 1 year per study expectation, and then you test, and if you pass, you get a score, you move on to the next, which is another year. So basically, that imposition of time to learning. So in an XY graph, right? Not XY graph. Sorry. What do you say? In a not forget a graph, but like there's time and there's learning, right?
Right.
And in the current model, time is static. So it's 1 year, fixed. There's no moving up or down. And learning outcomes is variable. So 70% or higher, you're good. You pass. And
That's the other.
and that's the fucked up part, which needs to be flipped to learning is fixed. That means you get this, you display an understanding of this fixed amount, whatever amount we decide, of learning outcomes. You show this ability, then you move on to the next grade. It may take you a year, may take you more than a year, might take you less than a year.
You have to show full proficiency
before moving to the next.
Before moving to the next level.
And so in the ignorance of this and the usage of the alternate method is how you know, the subjects get created, then also exams, because then
I will
grades,
say also
stuff like that.
a parenthesis here. Using examinations to test every single subject is possibly one of the most abysmally wrong things we can do in education. I'm sorry, but there are simply some things that should not be, your proficiency should not be measured through tests. Because, especially in today's world, with the internet at your fingertips, it is stupid to want people to accrue an unattainable amount of knowledge and display it in a period of time with a certain amount of questions that, first of all, don't test your knowledge fully, second of all, are imperfect by design.
Yeah.
Because questions, and especially professors, I don't know if I didn't used to notice or I was just too dumb to understand it back in high school. But now that I'm in college, dude, the questions in the exams are so poorly formulated, those people should go back to high school.
That's a consequence of the fact that the professor, the teacher has full authority in the class.
Exactly. And
they get lazy.
They get lazy and they start recycling stuff, or they'll just write some fuck all thing that they'll write the night before or whatever. They'll write in a small period of time. They won't put any thought behind it. Dude, I've seen so many exams with typos. If I put a typo in my final paper, I get deducted a letter grade. If a professor puts a typo in the exam, oh, it's no worries. I'll just write the correct word on the board. What kind of double standard bullshit is that?
Yeah. No, dude,
that's authoritarian, and authoritarian never allows growth. Too much order is terrible.
Yeah. No, I mean that's another consequence of just shitty teachers. Like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that a lot of teachers, they go into teaching because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll think they like it, but I don't think they have a passion for it. And most people just don't know what to do, and they probably studied something that doesn't have too much of a real application in the real world, and that happens a lot. And so from day one that they're going to their bachelor's degree, or at least to prepare to get their bachelor's degree, they are either, whether they like it, they know it or not, they are destined to be teachers. And even though you might like English, maybe you don't like teaching English. Those are two completely separate things. And it's hard to ask an 18-year-old to distinguish between those two and make a decision that's going to affect the rest of their lives, because then they're going to go back into college, they're going to become teachers, and maybe they don't like students. Maybe they don't like 18-year-olds. Maybe their ideas have changed. And then what you have as a result there is shitty teachers that hate their life, hate their profession, and dump all that boxed up anger onto the student.
Yeah.
And as a result, make my life and your life and the student's life a fucking impossible hell with unachievable standards, poorly formulated questions, and it makes the student grow a distaste for the particular subject.
Educational apathy.
And the sad thing is that particular student who starts hating the subject and never looks at it again might have just been the best person at that subject. They might just be a genius at that particular skill.
Dude, Einstein said, okay, Einstein, to remind you guys, is the man who discovered, discovered the true nature of gravity to the best of our knowledge right now. That is no trivial point. Newton had his ideas of gravity that stood for 200 years, more than that. And Einstein completely revolutionized our existence of existence. This is like, I could not conceptualize what a huge contribution to science and to everything, to literally a contribution to life and non-life in its entirety. I did not know what a major contribution Einstein provided us with, but
most people can't even conceptualize it.
Yeah, no, and this is a very hard thing to conceptualize. But my point is, what I'm trying to get at is, Einstein said that after school, after his exams, his science class and math class, in school, he had grown so distasteful of science that he could not do any science work that he wanted to do out of his pure curiosity and his willingness to play with it. He grew so distasteful of the subject because of school that he didn't even touch it for a year, one whole year. And
Imagine what it would have been like if Einstein decided never to touch the sciences.
exactly, dude. In another universe, school, the institution that promotes learning, would have been the reason that we didn't make the greatest breakthrough in science
And who
of
knows
our
where
time.
we'd be now.
Yeah,
And that's a fun thing. It's only acceptable. It's only okay to entertain the possibility that who knows how many Einsteins, statistically, how many Einsteins
yeah.
left a profession that could have completely revolutionized the world and solved so many world problems that we have right now. And if you don't think that's true, just take a pick. The world is falling apart, and it's not even our fault. The world is trying to kill us.
That's
But I'm getting into another subject. How many people left something that they would be geniuses at because of this system, because of this education system? It's really sad to think about that.
I mean, at the same time, I think it's important to mention that education has never been better than it has today.
That is true.
We have still come a long way.
But I still think
We should do much better.
it's, yeah, exactly. The fact that it's never been better doesn't mean it's good.
I mean,
The fact that,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I
guess
should
so, I
rephrase.
guess.
The fact that it's never been better doesn't mean that it is as good as it has to be.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. It doesn't mean that. I mean, I would not even disagree with what you said first. Like, just because it's been the best it's ever been doesn't mean it's good, bro. Like,
No, I'm just trying to cater
it's
to
like
all the
democracy, bro. It's democracy all over.
Exactly, we were
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah, like it's the like democracy is
It's the best
the
we
best
have.
worst. It's the
It's the
no.
best we have, but it's not good.
Yeah. And thing is, I feel solving the education thing is much easier than solving the democracy thing.
Oh, the education thing. I wouldn't say it's easy as one to three.
Higher education is
But-
not as hard as democracy. Maybe
It's at least I think you and I have a pretty good idea of where to start to solve higher education. We're already doing it. I have no fucking clue where to start to solve democracy. I don't have any better idea.
yeah.
I mean, here we are complaining about it, but I have no idea what's better. I don't know if there's something better out there.
Yeah.
At least I can think about it.
I mean, when I used to like think that I had valid ideas on political matters back then, and honestly, I kind of still think that if we have to solve political issues, it starts with this, and that's education, dude. Like,
Oh,
if you're going
100%.
to create a society, if you want to create a better structure of society, you need to first enable the participants in society to be able to adapt to new things.
Oh, 100%. And think about it. Not our society, but us as a species have only been able to get better and get a better standard of living and just make our society better and more complex through learning. Because
Yeah.
if we look at the Dark Ages when nobody was allowed to read other than anything other than the
couldn't
Bible.
Couldn't be.
No, but they were not allowed to have access to any other information that didn't come from the church.
Yeah, information. Yeah, information is true.
That's a better word for it. Look at how they lived back then. And as soon as that got broken, look at the
Yeah,
insane, the amazing jump that came to civilization and to societies in general. And that is no small task. That is not something to diminish. Every time education gets better, and that's not the right word, but for lack of a better word, every time education gets better, society gets better as a whole.
yeah. No, that's true. Like when even Europe was experiencing its Middle Ages and its not very pleasant time, the whole world, like other parts of the world, were thriving, dude.
Yeah.
And the stark difference was, well, access to information for one, and two is just cultural values and norms, which in a funny way, like it comes back to education, because that type of education is not what we refer to when we were just having our conversation. It's not structured education. It's more abstract education. It's more about what authority figures at home, like parents, they instill in you. So that's, in other words, it is a kind of education.
No, it is. What the like you call it abstract education that we get taught by our parents or any figure of authority or of care. It's probably some of the most important
No, yeah.
education
No, it is.
you're
It's-
gonna have.
Dude, K-12, this was statistically proven. Okay, I forget, I think it was Chicago, University of Chicago or University of Michigan, one of them. They conducted a study.
Yeah.
And they found out that the strongest predictor of less behavioral problems in school and greater learning
Right.
is the duration and frequency of family meals.
That is an interesting thing.
Yeah, and dude, like it makes sense, man. Like, and this is K-12, and like when you're that age, when you're in your formative years, and you don't have that support system, because that's at home, right? Like once you're in school, it's a war zone, for lack of a better word. In a way, it's like anything goes down, people shit on you all the time.
It is.
Like anything can be, like
You're
it
not
can
in
be
a
good.
safe space anymore, and
I mean, it is safe, like physically, but like
but
it's
it's
the randomness it creates is a valuable teacher, no doubt.
no, it
But you need a balance.
it's no, and when I say safe space, I don't allude to the modern concept of safe spaces because I think that's something for another day, but I don't agree with that.
Okay.
When I say safe spaces, when you're in your formative years and you're just starting to understand or learn how to interpret the world around you, which is when you're a kid,
Yeah.
that time period you said. It is important to get shit on, and it is important to basically get fucked over.
So not to not get what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's part of learning. If you never, how do I put this?
Yeah, if you don't get
If you
what
never
want.
experience hardship, that's a good word. If
Yeah.
you never experience hardship, you're not gonna be able to deal with the immense suffering that you're inevitably gonna feel in your later years.
Yeah, I mean, and suffering doesn't have to be like incredibly bad. Like you don't
Oh,
get
no.
beaten up or anything.
No. It's just
It's-
learning how to deal with
With
hardship.
Yeah.
And for a kid, any kind of hardship is very big. It's not the same as when you're an adult and I fell.
Yeah.
It's much less important to you when you're an adult because you have a much better understanding of life and you've fallen a million times before.
Yeah.
When you're a kid and you're just starting to be in that situation, it's extremely important. And I also think it's extremely important to, I don't want to say because I don't think that's a good word, but to have disagreements
Yeah.
with other people. And it's important that sometimes people are gonna bunch up on you and they're gonna make you feel like shit. They're gonna make you feel bad, they're gonna make
Yeah.
you feel worthless. And it's important for you to understand that because later in life, when you feel all the suffering that we're all due to feel, because that is the one constant in life, everybody's gonna
Yeah.
suffer. And it's gonna suffer a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm getting off point here. But
Yes, that's a very put this approach to life.
yeah. What was I saying? Yeah. When you get all that hardship, that's going to be real hardship. And that's the kind of hardship that breaks people. That's the kind of hardship that drives you
Yeah.
to killing yourself.
That's what drives you to shoot up schools.
Exactly. That's what drives you to do things that deteriorate society and yourself.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with, I mean, obviously, an overload of hardship when you're a kid can also drive to that.
Yeah.
So it's important to have a balance.
Yeah.
But that also comes with going to your house and having your parental figures, your figure of authority or figures of authority to be able to teach you how life works because life doesn't work in textbook.
Yeah.
You can't predict what's going to happen
Yeah.
from reading 1, 10, 100 or 1 million books. All the books in the world, you're still not going to be able to predict what's going to happen tomorrow to the T. And you have to be able to accept the randomness and not let it break you.
Yeah. No, exactly. And especially today, dude.
More than ever.
Because before the pre-social media era, once you're out of school, had a disconnect with all the bullshit, with all the randomness. Came home and you literally had no means to interact with it. Like it was always cut off.
You were probably in the most controlled environment that you were ever gonna be, which is your home with your family.
Exactly. And now it's never ending. It's 24/7.
Now you're completely connected to the randomness.
Exactly. So now more than ever, you need explicit downtime. Like disconnected with. I mean, you need to disconnect from stimulation. Because it's constant stimulation. There's always more notification. There's always going to be another TV show. There's always going to be other movies. Always going to be another video games. Always going to be some shit that happened to fucking Susie or some shit that happened to whoever else is there.
Fucking Susie.
But
No, I know exactly what you mean, and it's true. And you know what worries me? Increasingly, generation after generation, because. I mean, I don't know how the fuck people are pulling generations at this age and time.
Pulling generations?
No, pulling like as in, like, this age to this age, like this year to this year, it's a generation. But the way I see it, we're one generation.
Yeah.
We're a generation that grew up in the peak of technological innovation. But
no, we didn't.
No, we did. No, well, shouldn't I say peak?
We grew up in the transition to the transition to the digital world.
Well.
The peak of technological innovation could arguably be like the 30s.
You're right. Well, that's what I mean. The transition to digital.
Okay, yeah.
When I was a kid, smartphones didn't exist.
Yeah.
I had my first phone was a fucking flip phone, and it was great. And I feel I have a 16-year-old stepbrother, and I feel like that kid has had probably half the social interaction I had when I was 16. Yeah. Just because, and when I say social interaction, I mean physical. I mean talking to somebody. And also, I think something that this new generations struggle with is they don't know how to be bored anymore.
Oh, no, that's true.
They can't accept being bored, and that's extremely detrimental for the well-being of the person.
That's like an actual thing, because what happens is when this was I saw this a while ago, so I forget the names, but what happens is when you're bored,
you're creative.
Yeah, there's this part of your brain, I think it's called a default mode or something, that gets activated, okay? And that part of your brain is responsible for autobiographical planning. So that's long-term planning. That's also your ability to like simulate the future, which in a way is creativity. Your ability to simulate with different variables, playing with different variables.
Basically fantasizing. When you're bored, your mind goes elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And when you have constant notifications, and
you never get them.
The default mode is never activated.
Yeah.
And that also at the end of the day leads to, what do you call those? You know how teenagers are always. The word is malaise, but I don't think that means anything to you. But it's basically like
explain it for our viewers.
They're always like dull. They're
always pissed.
They're always pissed, and like, I mean, this is generalization. There are obviously exceptions, but like
but it's from my personal experience, it's very true across the board. Today, it's a generalization, but in general, teenagers today they behave like bitches. Like little bitches.
Yeah, it comes back to what you said. Like they don't know how to be bored.
They don't know how to be bored. They can't be away from their phone.
That's dangerous.
They can't spend the whole day. What happened to not spending a whole day in front of a screen? What happened to just spending a day with your family, with no phone, no computer?
I feel okay.
I mean, a screen.
I see your point. I know. I agree with the point you're making, and I'm just nitpicking here. But the issue is not with the screen. The issue is with what you're doing. Exactly.
The screen is going to be there, and the screen itself, the inherent value of the screen is fantastic. It's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to our society and us as a race.
No.
But the misuse of that screen can have very, very profound negative effects in society.
Yeah, one of it is instant gratification.
That's the problem, and that we see with social media a lot.
Yeah,
because people now we're talking about this. I mean, I know people of our age group that suffer from this, but I think
No, it's
um,
everyone.
it's insane to think that kids, because they're kids, what, 14, 13, 15-year-old kids, they're kids, they don't know what life is. I don't know what life is, and I'm 21.
Yeah.
They live and die for this instant gratification in the form of likes, comments, etc.
Yeah.
And they really, some of them, their mental health is deteriorated
Oh yeah.
by this, and it's a big problem. And I think that's just a byproduct of the misuse of technology. Because yeah, of course, corporations are gonna try to make it as addictive as possible so they
Yeah.
can sell you more advertisement.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. But
Yeah.
business is business. The business of business is making profits.
I mean, yeah.
It's part of it.
It's ignorance to a certain degree of both parties. Like on one side, the corporations they're willingly turning a blind eye,
I mean, dude, like
and you can't blame them.
let's be honest. The people who are making social media and the people who design apps, they design it to be as instantly gratifying as possible.
Yeah.
And that's one of the basic principles of design theory.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
You have to make the user feel good.
Yeah. No, that's
So they
fair.
stay and they keep using. And if you don't make the user feel good, then you have a shitty app.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
But I think it's again, sound like a broken record, but it's systematic. It's ingrained in society.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of issues become big once they're
Yeah, exactly.
part of the system.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's a big issue because it's not going to get any better. And these people are living and dying for likes and comments. I don't know what's going to happen to them when they're 30.
I can't. Like, I mean,
I can't fathom that. I really can't. I can't think of myself. I don't post. And I can't think of myself living and dying
yeah.
for the gratification and that. But I mean, that's not to take anything away from the people who do because it's not your fault. Most of the time, it's not your fault in this situation. But it is something that you have to identify if it's eating you away, and if it is, you have to make positive action to stop it. Because if not, we haven't seen what a 30-year-old who lives and dies by likes and comments looks like. We haven't.
Have we not?
When did Facebook start?
I don't remember. I know when YouTube started 2005. I don't know when Facebook.
But
around the same time should be.
I think YouTube's a little different because people who
No, I mean I'm saying it because all the most social media giants.
no,
All in all,
I know what you
around
mean.
the same
I know what you
time.
mean, but what I'm talking about because shit, if I'm posting stuff on YouTube, I mean I'm not gonna live and die by it, but I would want my work to be rewarded. I mean, it's a kind of validation for my work being good or bad, which is not anymore because YouTube is completely cluttered and it's very hard to find quality stuff, and the stupidest things get the most likes just by chance, algorithm, etc. So
It's a reflection of what people
oh,
are.
no, it is. That's just a personal side note. I don't think that in YouTube views and all that, because I found the best videos, the most informative videos with the most enlightening ideas to be not very popular, and then I find some stupid videos from some questionable characters that have millions and millions of views.
Yeah.
But I'm talking more about geared towards the personal social media, so to likes of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now, etc. Which
I mean, even YouTube can be personal.
No, it could.
depends. All of them can be personal.
it can, but I'm
Depends
talking
on
about
YouTube.
more. Like when
I
you
know
post
what
a
you mean.
photo, yeah, you know what I mean. When you
Yeah.
post a photo on Instagram, yeah, sure, you work on it, but you don't spend nights editing.
You don't have
your photo.
friends. You don't have friends following you on YouTube. Like
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not-
You
yeah.
post for an audience. In
Yeah.
Instagram, you're kind of posting for your social circle.
yeah, I get it.
And that puts a lot of pressure in a lot of people's minds. And I don't know how these people. Let's just. I want to see when Facebook came out.
Facebook. Around it should be 2000. Honestly. Around 2004.
2004.
Yeah.
So people who were born. Not were born. Who were kids in 2004. Okay, they're
I mean,
coming
yeah.
to age. But
But you don't use it then. Like I would say, when in 2004.
it started. It was
So
launched.
that around then it'll be like 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds maybe using it. And I mean there was social media, there was MySpace before that.
But
let's say
not to the
2004.
same phenomenon as today.
Yeah, I mean
And the concept of likes and comments deteriorating mental health, I think
That was
it's
new.
a lot more prevalent
Yeah.
with Instagram and such.
Yeah, I mean, it was on Facebook as well.
It was on Facebook, but it's kind of migrated to Instagram and such, and it's gotten worse.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only gonna keep getting. I'm just curious to see what the people who are my stepbrother's age are gonna look like when they're 30.
I mean,
Maybe
this
I'm
is
wrong.
this is just a. I mean, you didn't say anything that could be that you said you wanted to.
I just want to see them, and maybe I don't have the best I don't have the best prediction in mind. I could
What
be
is your
wrong.
prediction?
I don't know. We're in uncharted territory. It's
I-
never
I-
happened in
I
human
think-
existence that we're so interconnected and so dependent on the approval of others. Before you were dependent on the approval of your parents, your immediate society,
Approval of
which is
God.
your approval of God, that is true, and your approval of God, as long as you follow the rules that were put in society, so you didn't kill yourself and do harm to society, as
Yeah.
long as you were a good citizen, you were good with God, which was probably the most important thing. Your parents, then your spouse, then your kids, which have to like you, especially in those times, and then you die a happy man, accomplished man, or woman. Now you literally have the whole world looking at you. And if you pathologically are looking for the approval of 8 billion people, I don't know what's going to happen to you when you're an adult and you have to function. Because right now, let's be honest, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, they're not functional. They're very dependent on
Oh, yeah.
their authority figures. And they're going to go to college and they're going to continue to be dependent. And obviously, the landscape is going to change a lot because now you see a lot of people are actually making money of this instant gratification. And
Oh, yeah.
Instagram models,
It's gonna happen everywhere. Like
influencers, the way people. That's
Yeah.
the.
and
that's the
anything
term.
that has eyeballs will make money.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know what's gonna happen. We
I-
have
I
a
don't
we have a
think-
shortage of STEM majors right now.
Dude,
in the
I
world.
don't think it's gonna be any different, to be honest, because
I
they said
disagree with
people
that.
said the same thing about like when I'll give you an example, and I'll tie it back to social media. But like initially, people when cars were invented, people said that we would lose our connection to the earth because before we would just ride horses, and then that's one example of like nothing drastic happened. People
No, everything got better.
Yeah.
But the thing is that let me just put a parenthesis there so I don't forget this.
okay.
There is inherent value in switching a horse to a car. It's faster.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, no, I get it. And
It's just better. But
yeah,
there's no inherent
Yes,
value in
there
getting
is.
what is.
in social media,
No, there is inherent value in social media.
Yeah.
There's no inherent value in having your mental health be dependent on likes and comments.
oh no, I'm not saying that. There's no inherent value in
In
addiction of any kind except probably learning. But
Or working.
even working can be bad, bro. Like if you work too much.
You're right. Any addiction taken to the extreme can be.
But my point is that because after that example, there was newspapers, right? And newspapers, everyone was like the newspaper. Like there was a picture of a like a subway or somewhere,
Right.
and everyone had the head in newspaper, and that was exact parallel of right now. Everyone has a head on their phone, so it's not gonna be like people are gonna. It's just gonna become a new baseline, and that's gonna be the accepted standard. They're gonna be the equal. Like they're gonna be generally speaking, no statistical significant difference in the amount of crazy people, the amount of like.
No,
It's all gonna be stay relatively the same.
there's gonna be a social shift for sure.
Yeah, there might be like mental health outcries like right now,
That is,
but it's all gonna come back.
but that's what I'm saying. With the newspaper thing,
Yeah,
a phone is basically a newspaper and steroids in every single possible way.
newspaper
And newspaper,
camera,
everything.
everything
All
combined.
those things that came and were gonna change the world, and they did, but not negatively. They're all together in the phone, just on steroids. Matter of fact, we're videotaping
yeah.
these conversations on phone
Yeah.
for anybody to see, as long as they have an internet connection.
Yeah.
So for once, I think this is the most powerful technology, or one of the most powerful technologies in comparison to the ones we had before. And I know technology is incremental, so it's not really a fair comparison. But I think if things keep going this way, and I might be completely wrong, this is just a thought, it's a possibility at least. This mental health problem compiled with the fact that people have a more leftist way of no, it's true. Like
That's
younger
today.
people,
That's the shift that's happening today. That's what
yeah,
we're
exactly.
following. Yeah.
Today, younger people have more leftist views, and
Yeah.
that is just a fact.
No, that's true.
And in some aspects, that might be beneficial, but in some other aspects, that just makes people. It tends to make people mentally weaker because
I mean, it's easier to play the victim.
it's exactly that's what I was gonna say. Then you start introducing the idea of safe spaces and all these things. I'm not gonna get into detail or
Yeah,
follow
like
forward,
this
but
because what's happening in universities now, in the US at least, is that the material taught
it's indoctrinated.
is being no, that too, is being subject to what triggers the student. So if some content triggers the student, it's not allowed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And well, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but that along with the interconnectivity that we have right now, which I think it's no coincidence that this is happening at the same time. I think times are good. I think hardship is probably the lowest that it's been.
Oh, dude, more people die from sugar than gunpowder.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Hardship is the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah.
People are, or they might be at least some people, they're getting comfortable and lazy. And they had to, no, it's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
I'm not saying it's not true.
And the people who worked hard, obviously they have the best interest of their kids in mind.
Yeah.
So they're gonna make the easiest world they can for their kids. And in turn, I think there's a possibility if you compile that along with leftist views and this interconnectivity, people still like it's already happening. People they expect more from society. They somehow they feel entitled to more things. For example, not being offended, which is probably the most stupid thing I've ever heard. Because if an opposite point of view offends you, and you want to shut out that positive that different point of view, you are an idiot. You are a bloody idiot. What are you, the bearer of all the truth? No. Hey, some people, for example, let's take as an example the whole pronoun thing. And I'm not gonna give an opinion. I'm just gonna state the facts. If somebody, and this just ties back to free speech, which I think is one of the reasons why we've advanced so much, is because anybody can say anything they want. If you want to be called a certain way, personally, I would call you whatever hell you want me to call you, and I would accept it. Everybody can make of their life a party. I'm not against that. But when you're starting to force people with ideologies like that, you're taking away their free speech and their freedom in a way.
Yeah.
And what's there? So what? So eventually we're all gonna be homogeneous, and we're gonna have one point of view, and we're gonna get stuck like we did in the past, and we're gonna sacrifice innovation, and it's eventually gonna crumble because socialism has never worked.
I mean,
and when it's worked, it's been horrible for the society, for the individual in the society. Yeah, it looks great from the outside, but it's completely horrible for an individual in the society. And then it's going to crumble, and we're going to start all over again. Now, we've never seen a big-scale example of socialism in history, really.
Which was the biggest?
The USSR, which crumbled miserably.
Yeah.
So, if it does happen, the silver lining is it's going to be extremely interesting to see. It's gonna be extremely interesting. I'm kind of happy I was born in this time because I'm gonna get to experience that first time.
Yeah, that's a good mindset to have.
It's seeing the glass half full, because I mean, if we look at it for what it is inherently, we're a lot of people are sent down a very dark path, and they're not prepared for the hardships that they're gonna experience, and they are still trying to cover the sun with one finger and say that the world is pink colored and there's nothing wrong with anything, and that is a suicidal assumption.
Yeah. To wrap this up, I just saw a really interesting philosophical video, and I'm not gonna go over it now, but its ending was so, like, I love the ending. and it ties in perfectly with what you just said, because people always want to see the glass through only like one half, right?
Oh yeah.
They don't know how to see the other half, and in the video it was perfect. 'Cause I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'll paraphrase it, and it said that the glass is either half. People think that the glass is either half full or half empty.
It's both.
It's both. Yes, exactly. It's both, but it's only both until the glass is there. Once the glass is shattered, it's thrown away, it's broken. Then what? We don't know what the glass is. We don't know if the glass can just be. It can be tipped today. It'll be shattered to nothingness tomorrow, and then what? Then
That's
did it matter if it was half full or half empty?
Exactly.
But the point of the matter is not to say that nothing matters. The point of
That's
the
very
matter,
nihilistic.
the point of the matter is to recognize that the glass is half full and half empty at the same time, yes, but also that the glass is there, that the glass is not broken still.
And also accept that the glass might break every day.
The
Any day. Sorry.
nature of the glass is unknown to us, and even though absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, a good assumption to have is that the glass can be shattered at any moment, because that allows to live a life that's not one always in fear, but also not one in ignorance. So it's a healthy amount of fear, and yeah, it's like that's the cornerstone of every single philosophy in the world. Like there's a element of pessimism and fear, but it's an acceptance of
Oh
the
yeah.
unknown.
And just to wrap it up with my response to this is, in reality, at least from my point of view, everything as an individual is too small to. Pragmatically, it's too small to be utilitarian, to mean something, if that makes any sense.
Wait, what?
Any single one of us as individuals probably don't mean anything for the vast
I mean,
universe. And
I mean,
when I say that, I mean
our knowledge said that our collective.
No,
means
wait.
absolutely nothing.
no, I'm saying individual. Yeah,
Like even collectively, like what?
yeah, we're too insignificant for what we have, for what we're part of. But, and just to finish that,
Okay, go ahead.
but I'm not gonna go the nihilistic route. I think that's a very sad.
But dude,
Let's get around.
it's a good thing to recognize.
No, it's a good thing to recognize it, but that's why we need to seek purpose and
to be functioning members of society.
to be no.
Yeah,
I mean that too. We
yeah.
have to be. That's a responsibility as part of society. But we just have to find purpose so we live a happy life. And it's interesting. This is the last 2 minutes of the episode.
Okay.
I heard this story. I heard this story about not this story. It was like it was some kind of talking video, and they were talking about how when you're old and you've experienced everything and you feel fulfilled with what you've done, then they ask you, "Do you want to live forever?" And you ask yourself, at first glance, you might say, "Hell yeah, I want to live forever. I never want to die." But then you think, "Do I really want to go to college again and get another bachelor's degree? I like that I did that, but it's already happened. Do I really want to go back and get another doctorate? I've already done that. I don't want to do it again. Do I really want to have kids again? Probably not. I'm content with my life." And then it's time to let go. And that's how you know you've lived a good life and you've lived with purpose. And that person who can say that, at least when they're in their deathbed or when they're just old and statistically closer to death than they were to when they were born, that's when you know you've lived a good life. And you probably go away happy. You'll probably die happy and die content. And the world keeps spinning.
Would you digitize your consciousness if you could?
I would digitize it and turn it off.
So wait, no. But if you turn it off, you can't turn it back on.
Yeah. I'll
So you
make
keep
them
it in
wake
your
me
power.
up. Oh yeah, I'll keep it stored.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, once you turn it off, it's off.
Oh, then probably not.
But no, you can transfer it and it's there. Then your
Yeah, but that's the
You
thing.
exist
I think
through
through what? Give me some more.
like you're a computer. You're like Jarvis.
Oh,
So, but like once you're off, you're off. Like that's how you. That's how you hold.
can I turn off at any time?
See, that's what. See, I mean, if you can, then it makes the question easy. Then I would do for sure.
If
But-
you can turn off at any
But
time.
I mean, it's not easy. I mean, yeah, sure, why not?
It's exactly.
It's
I'll
not
try
easy.
it out.
The more you think about it, it gets so messy and.
Why don't we leave this conversation for the start of the next episode?
Okay.
How about that? Let's make a note of it. All right, so this is the end.
Okay.
After wow,
An
Hour
hour
and a
25
half.
minutes. Not bad. Not bad.
that's pretty good. Worst. All right, well,
No, we'll be
we'll
back
see you
next
in the
week.
next episode.
Yeah.
Dope. All right, bro.